So imagine a country that was basically written off.
Right. Just totally dismissed by Western economists.
Exactly. A place categorized as perpetually backward. Like not too long ago, they were struggling just to feed their own people.
Drowning in catastrophic debt.
Yeah. Destined to just stay on the absolute margins of the global economy forever. But then, and this is the massive slap in the face, in just a couple of decades, they flip the global food chessboard completely upside down.
It's wild. They become this undisputed titan, dominating the market.
Completely altering global supply chains.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you look at the developing countries that obediently follow the perfect economic rule books handed down by the West.
Right, the ones who did everything they were told.
Yeah, they plunged into deeper disaster.
Also,
So how on earth does that happen?
well, it's one of the most profound mysteries in modern economic history, really. And it kind of forces us to question basically everything we think we know about how societies progress.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We are looking at a fascinating piece of research by Alston and Bernardo Mueller.
Yeah, two brilliant economists.
The paper's called Economic Backwardness and Catching Up, Brazilian Agriculture, 1964 to 2014.
Yeah.
But look, this isn't just some dusty agricultural history lesson.
Yeah, at all. The authors are using the Brazilian miracle as a magnifying glass.
Right, to expose the hidden mechanics of how global development actually works.
Yeah.
And what we are going to see, what the data shows, is that the standard narrative is just dead wrong.
The idea that you can just copy-paste the institutions of rich countries and magically become rich yourself.
Yeah, that idea is not just wrong, it's actively destructive.
Truly destructive.
So for you listening right now, whether you're trying to apply imported templates to your own business or your team, or just complex problems in general, this deep dive is going to give you a completely different map for survival.
So to understand why those standard rules fail, we have to start with this massive global cognitive blind spot.
The industrialization myth.
Exactly. For like 200 years, the absolute consensus was that development and industrialization were the exact same thing.
I mean, it sounds intuitive, right? You look at Britain, the U.S., Germany, they built massive steel plants.
They modernized manufacturing.
Right, and they got incredibly wealthy. So the natural conclusion is, well, if you're a developing nation, you have to build heavy industry.
And if you don't, you're doomed to poverty. Under this whole framework, agriculture wasn't just, a secondary thing.
It was seen as the very definition of being backward.
Right, a vestige of the past that just needed to be extracted from. So because of this deeply entrenched belief, starting in the 1930s, developing nations fell into a massive trap.
A fatal trap, really.
Yeah, it was a strategy called import substitution industrialization, or ISI.
Let's break down ISI, because it wasn't just some vague idea. It was really aggressive set of policies.
Extremely aggressive. The goal was simple: stop importing manufactured goods from rich countries and just build everything domestically.
Right. Close the borders to foreign products.
Basically, yeah, they put up massive tariff walls. Like, if you wanted to import a foreign tractor, the tariff might make it 300% more expensive.
Wow. 300%.
Yeah. It forced citizens to buy from domestic factories. And at the same time, the government aggressively subsidized these urban factories with cheap credit.
And here's the catch, that money had to come from somewhere.
Right, exactly. And the government decided it was going to come straight from the farmers.
They literally cannibalized their own agricultural sector.
They did. They put massive export taxes on agricultural products, or, even worse, they artificially overvalued their own currency.
Okay, wait, let's pause on the currency manipulation. That's a super sneaky mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
How does inflating the currency actually steal from a farmer to pay a factory owner?
Well, think of it like this. An artificially strong currency makes foreign goods super cheap to buy.
Okay.
But it makes your own exports incredibly expensive for the rest of the world.
Ah, I see.
So the urban factory owner can suddenly afford to import heavy machinery from Germany at a massive discount. It's a hidden subsidy for them.
While the Brazilian farmer, who relies on selling coffee or soybeans globally, gets totally crushed.
Exactly. They receive way less local currency for their crops because their exports are suddenly too expensive for foreign buyers.
So the government is basically reaching right into the farmer's pocket.
To pay the factory owner's machinery bill, yep.
And the result? The domestic factories get completely shielded from competition. They get lazy and inefficient.
And the agricultural sector, which could have been this massive engine, gets starved of capital.
It's an absolute disaster. And the macroeconomic results were catastrophic, right?
Beyond catastrophic. By the late 70s and 80s, this blind pursuit of heavy industry meant they had to borrow internationally. A lot.
Leading to the infamous Latin American debt crisis.
Yeah.
Debt just exploded to historical peaks.
The whole ISI model just collapsed under its own weight.
And this is where the international community decides to step in and help. Enter the Washington Consensus.
Right. The World Bank, the IMF, they look at this wreckage and say, hey, we have the perfect blueprint to fix this.
We have the flawless template.
They literally handed out the standardized toolkit. Privatize state-owned companies, deregulate markets, enforce strict property rights, balance the budget.
Basically, the institutions of the first world shrink-wrapped and handed to the developing world.
Exactly.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here. Balancing budgets and having property rights, those don't sound like bad ideas, right? Why did that perfect template fail so spectacularly?
Because it assumes you can just transplant an institution from one context to a totally different one. The paper leans heavily on the economic historian Alexander Gerschenkron here.
He's a huge figure in this research.
He is. Gerschenkron argued that institutions are organic. Dropping a first-world economic institution into a developing nation, it's literally like a biological organ transplant.
The host body's immune system doesn't care that the new organ is healthy.
Right, it just knows it's foreign, so it attacks it.
That makes so much sense. You can pass a law in the capital mandating strict property rights.
Yeah.
But if the local courts are underfunded, or if cultural norms around land are communal,
Or if local elites hold all the real power and benefit from the chaos.
the new law doesn't work like it does in London and Washington. It just gets ignored or corrupted.
The data on this is just staggering. The failure rate for African and Latin American countries adopting these perfect templates was incredibly high. Decades of stagnation.
It's the ultimate trap, really. It's like watching a billionaire's morning routine on social media.
Oh, I love this analogy.
You see some tech mogul waking up at 5 a.m., drinking a weird green juice, taking an ice bath, and you think, that's the secret. If I drink the green juice, I'll make $1 billion.
Right, totally ignoring the reality.
Completely ignoring the network effects, the market timing, the compounding capital that actually built their wealth. You're just copying the shiny surface.
Exactly. Policymakers were essentially prescribing green juice to countries that lacked basic infrastructure.
So if the templates are poison, how do we actually map out success? The paper uses this concept called fitness landscapes, right?
Yes, borrowed from evolutionary biology. But for our purposes, we can just call it a survival map.
Okay, a survival map.
The authors break this down into 3 types of landscapes. Let's start with the delusion that most policymakers live in, the smooth landscape.
This is the Mount Fuji fallacy.
Precisely. Imagine you're trying to find the highest point of economic prosperity. In a smooth landscape, it looks like a perfect symmetrical mountain, one clear peak.
So any step you take upwards is a good step.
Right. Simple effort equals success. Just keep walking up.
But the reality is, economies die on the side of that imaginary mountain.
Because human societies don't live on a smooth landscape, they exist on a rugged landscape.
So instead of Mount Fuji, we're talking about the Himalayas.
Exactly. A sprawling mountain range, hundreds of peaks of different heights, separated by deep, treacherous ravines.
Because everything in an economy is highly connected.
You change one tax law, and 5 other things break. In a rugged landscape, you might optimize your policies and find yourself at the top of a small hill.
Okay, so you're stable. Things are decent.
Yeah, your economy is stable. But you look across the valley and you see a much higher peak, like the living standards of Northern Europe.
But you can't just keep walking up. You're already at the top of your little hill.
Exactly. To reach the bigger mountain, you have to walk down into the valley.
And walking down means intentionally wrecking your current stability.
It means a deep recession, firing thousands of people in inefficient industries, immense political chaos, all just across the valley to start climbing again.
What politician is ever going to do that? Hey, everyone, I'm going to crash the economy for a decade, but trust me, it'll be great later.
They'd be overthrown immediately, which is why countries get stuck in local optimum traps. They do everything right for their specific hill, but they can't ever cross the valley.
That is so bleak. But wait, it gets worse, doesn't it? The third landscape.
Oh, yes. The dancing landscape.
The absolute nightmare scenario.
This is where coevolution comes in. The mountains aren't static. Every time you adapt, your competitors change their policies. Or new tech drops.
The internet is invented, or AI.
And the ground literally shifts beneath your feet. Your nice, safe peak might sink into a ravine overnight.
So maintaining the status quo is basically chronic suicide.
It is. And this highlights the fatal gap between belief and reality. Decision makers operate on a belief map in their heads. They think they're on a smooth slope.
So they take a confident step forward and plunge right off a cliff because the real landscape is rugged and dancing.
Disasters happen because leaders are blind to the actual terrain.
Okay, so if the map is invisible and it's constantly moving and the templates are poison, how does anyone ever actually succeed?
Well, the answer the sources provide is completely anti-common sense.
It sounds almost like a defense of sheer incompetence.
It really does. It's based on this profound idea by Albert Hirschman. But first, we have to throw out Walt Rostow's stages of growth theory.
Right, the idea that every country has to walk up the exact same staircase.
Yeah, like a video game tech tree. You have to invent pottery before bronze. But Gerschenkron said, no, there's an advantage to backwardness.
Because you arrive late to the game.
Yeah.
You can just look at the destination and leapfrog.
Exactly. You don't need to lay copper telephone wire if you can just jump straight to mobile cellular towers.
But leaping across an invisible, dancing mountain range sounds terrifying. How do they actually take that jump?
This is Hirschman's hiding hand principle. It's brilliant. He looked at massive, seemingly impossible mega projects in developing nations, and he asked, why did these actually succeed?
And his answer is wild. They succeeded because the planners were completely, horribly wrong about how hard it would be.
Yes, human beings are fundamentally risk-averse. If a developing nation truly understood all the roadblocks, the failures, the agony required to transform an economy.
They would literally never start. They'd just be paralyzed.
Exactly. So they have to delude themselves. They use this pseudo-imitation technique. They tell themselves, oh, we're just applying the American model. It'll be easy.
That arrogant delusion gets them to take the first step. It gets them halfway up the mountain.
And then the hiding hand pulls away the veil. Reality hits. The template fails. The budget explodes. And they realize they are lost in the rugged landscape.
But they can't turn back. The money is spent. To quit means total ruin.
So pure panic sets in. And that desperation, having their backs against the wall, forces them to tap into reserves of local innovation they never knew they had.
They throw away the imported template and finally start solving their own specific problems.
And by doing that, they often reach a much higher peak than they ever imagined. Ignorance isn't just bliss, it's a strategic requirement for change.
That is mind-blowing. Incompetence is a superpower. Okay, let's look at the hard evidence. Let's look at Brazil's agricultural miracle by the numbers.
The data here is the ultimate slap in the face to traditional economic models.
Because between 1975 and 2011, Brazil multiplied its agricultural output by a factor of 4, a 400% increase.
Now, common sense says if you quadruple output, you must have quadrupled your inputs, right?
You cleared 4 times the land, hired 4 times the workers.
But the data says no. The amount of new land they used.
0.
The line on the chart is perfectly flat.
And the labor line actually slopes downward. They produce 4 times the food using fewer workers and the same amount of land.
That is pure magic. And the economic term for that magic is total factor productivity, TFP.
TFP is the holy grail. It's the measure of pure innovation and efficiency. Growth on the extensive margin is just brute force buying more land, but TFP is working smarter.
Better soil science, smarter logistics, genetic engineering.
Exactly. And Brazil's massive leap was almost entirely driven by an explosion in TFP. When you put their chart next to the US and Europe,
It's a dimensional strike.
it really is. The rich world had all the money and mature tech. But starting in the 1990s, Brazil's TFP line basically goes vertical. They completely blew past the West, which led to this massive crop power shuffle.
By 2012, Brazil was in the global top 5 for coffee, soybeans, oranges, and beef.
But, and I love this detail, amidst all that dominance, they actually fell in the global rankings for rice.
Which completely validates the rugged landscape theory.
Right, because if you have the magic formula for soy, why not just apply it to rice?
Because there is no magic universal formula. Agriculture is geographically determined. Rice needs standing water and specific soil.
And the government can't just mandate that from an office in Brasilia.
Exactly. The magic only happened where localized science met the actual physical reality of the landscape. They found their own unique peak.
Okay, but let's be clear. This miracle did not happen in a calm, rational laboratory.
Not at all.
It started in total chaotic dysfunction. Let's rewind to the military era, 1964 to 1984.
The military regime was obsessed with state-led developmentalism. And true to the global delusion of the time, their only goal was rapid industrialization.
Agriculture was just a piggy bank to them. They needed cheap food for the urban workers and export money to buy factory parts.
Right. They viewed the rural elite as completely backward. So how did they try to drag agriculture into the future?
By drowning it in cash. Just an ocean of money.
In 1979 alone, the military handed out $26.8 billion in agricultural credit.
And the terms of those loans, this is the craziest part, the real interest rate was negative 37.7%.
They were literally paying people to take the money.
Wait, let's break that down. Why would a government deliberately do that?
It was about inflation and political control. Inflation was running so hot that by the time you paid the loan back, the money was worthless.
So it's just a massive wealth transfer to buy the loyalty of the rural elites.
Basically, yes, to compensate them for how badly the currency manipulation was hurting their exports.
So you'd think with billions in free money, the farmers would buy the best tech and innovation would skyrocket.
Nope. TFP completely flatlined for the entire decade. Zero innovation.
How do you spend $26 billion and get zero progress?
Because the market signals were completely twisted. Why take the risk of investing in complex new seeds when the easiest way to get rich is just to harvest the negative interest rate from the government?
The incentives were totally perverse. But the military didn't stop there. They decided to conquer the Amazon.
The geopolitical paranoia. They genuinely believed the world wanted to steal the Amazon rainforest, occupy it or lose it.
So they forced thousands of poor, landless citizens to migrate deep into the jungle.
With zero infrastructure, no roads, no understanding of the fragile tropical ecology. It was a humanitarian disaster. The poor farmers failed miserably.
So the military doubled down and bribed wealthy corporations.
With massive tax credits. If you built a cattle ranch in the Amazon, you got huge tax breaks.
Which created these phantom ranches.
The ultimate rugged landscape distortion. These corporations in São Paulo didn't care about raising cattle. They just wanted the tax loophole.
So they clear-cut the virgin rainforest, put up a fence, dropped a few starving cows in the mud, and claimed the money.
It was a completely fake farm. It produced zero food, caused massive deforestation, and sparked bloody conflicts with indigenous tribes.
It's mind-boggling. They poured unlimited fuel into a broken machine and wondered why it caught fire.
Hubris meeting nature. You can't conquer a complex ecosystem with top-down edicts.
The hiding hand was at work. Because amidst all this failure, the military accidentally planted one tiny seed.
Embrapa, the National Agricultural Research Firm, founded in the 1970s.
Now, for 30 years, Embrapa looked like a total failure. It produced basically nothing.
But quietly, they were doing the grueling work, sending young scientists abroad for PhDs and then bringing them back to tackle the Cerrado.
The Cerrado is this massive tropical savanna, but the soil is practically toxic, right?
Highly acidic, super low in nutrients, and packed with aluminum, which kills crop roots. Imported American soybeans would just instantly die there.
So Embrapa had to hack the soil.
They literally poured millions of tons of crushed limestone onto the earth to neutralize the acid.
And they hacked the plants, too.
Right. Breeding specific soil bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air. Cross-breeding temperate soybeans with tropical ones.
Just slowly building the exact knowledge needed for their specific landscape.
But, as we know, a seed can't grow in a hurricane. And Brazil was about to enter an economic Category 5 hurricane.
Okay, let's hit 1985. Democracy is restored. The military steps down.
Everyone is thrilled. In 1988, they write a new constitution. It promises everything to everyone. Universal health care, labor rights, absolute social inclusion.
Sounds beautiful, except they completely forgot about the budget.
They had no money to pay for any of it, so they just turned on the printing presses.
Which triggers the defining trauma of that era, hyperinflation.
Not just bad inflation. We're talking 1,000% per year by the early 90s.
I can't even fathom what that does to a society.
It destroys the concept of the future. Workers would literally run to the supermarket the second they got paid.
Because if you wait till tomorrow, your money buys 20% less food.
Store clerks spent their whole day running down aisles with price guns, just updating stickers hour by hour.
So apply that to agriculture. A farmer operates on long time horizons. You buy seeds in October, harvest in March.
And in hyperinflation, that math is impossible. Are you going to take out a loan for a new tractor or try Embrapa's new experimental seeds? No. You just try to survive the week. All investment completely froze.
Now, the government tried to fix it, right? They did all these shock therapy plans.
Well, a dozen of them. They froze prices by decree. They changed the currency's name. They even confiscated the entire population's savings accounts once.
Wow. Just total violation of trust.
And they all failed, because inflation isn't just math, it's a breakdown of trust. The public knew the government was still running deficits, so they knew the price freezes were a lie.
But then, in 1993, they pull off an absolute magic trick. The real plan.
Fernando Henrique Cardoso and his team, they realized you can't just trick the public, you have to rebuild the belief landscape.
And they did it without freezing a single price. How'd that even work?
Radical transparency. They created a virtual currency called the URV, the unit of real value.
A virtual currency?
Yeah, it was just an index pegged to the US dollar, so it was stable. They mandated that all prices and wages be listed in this stable URV.
But people were still paying with the old inflating money.
Exactly. The central bank published the daily exchange rate. So you go to the store and a carton of milk says 1 URV.
And tomorrow it still says 1 URV.
Right. You pay with a huge stack of the old money based on the daily rate, but your brain starts anchoring to the stability of the URV.
They essentially trained the population to trust this new unit of account.
And once the public believed it, the government just flipped the switch. On July 1st, 1994, they declared the URV was now the physical money called the real.
And the hyperinflation just vanished instantly.
It was brilliant. And bringing it back to agriculture, by killing inflation, they gave farmers the stable ground they desperately needed.
The future existed again.
Yeah.
And right there waiting for them was Embrapa.
Exactly. With 30 years of pent-up, localized science, the farmers finally felt safe to invest, and boom! TFP growth detonates. The line goes vertical.
So the grand secret wasn't a template. It was macro stability and local science.
Yes. But we have to talk about the trap of good intentions, because the new democracy's interventions still caused massive unintended destruction.
Right. Land reform. This is such a painful irony.
The 1988 Constitution wanted to fix historical inequality, massive estates held by rich elites while millions were landless. So the rule was, property must serve a social function.
Meaning if your land is just sitting there unproductive, the government can seize it and give it to the poor.
Sounds incredibly fair on paper. On a smooth landscape, it's a perfect Robin Hood solution.
But on a rugged landscape.
It triggered absolute panic. Landowners were terrified of militant peasant groups invading their farms to trigger a government seizure.
So any empty field is a massive liability. How did the landowners protect themselves?
They had to prove the land was productive, fast. And the cheapest way to do that?
Throw some cheap cattle on it.
Yes. They took incredibly fertile prime crop soil, perfect for Embrapa's high-yield soy, and deliberately turned it into highly inefficient, low-density pasture.
So to avoid having their land seized for being unproductive, they intentionally degraded its productivity.
They optimized for legal survival, not agricultural efficiency. And it gets worse. It completely destroyed the rural rental market.
Right, because normally a landowner would just rent to young, ambitious tenant farmers.
But now landowners were terrified that if a poor tenant worked the land, the tenant might claim squatters' rights. They'd argue they were fulfilling the social function, not the owner.
So owners completely refused to rent to anyone.
Exactly. The very policy meant to empower the poor, lock them completely out of upward mobility.
And force the degradation of millions of acres of soil. And the final tragic domino here. Where did those desperate landless people go when they couldn't rent land?
They migrated north to the Amazon,
Back to the rainforest.
engaging in slash-and-burn farming, sparking massive new waves of deforestation. A policy designed for social justice single-handedly crippled the rental market, ruined soil, and burned the Amazon.
Changing one rule on a rugged landscape just creates a cascade of disaster.
It really does.
Yet despite all of this, the phantom ranches, the hyperinflation, the land reform traps, Brazil still won. They emerged as a global titan.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of all this research.
Yeah, how do we package this up? Because the lesson definitely isn't just stumble around blindly.
No. The core lesson is that Brazil didn't succeed because they downloaded a flawless template. They won because they stumbled, failed, suffered, and violently learned to adapt to their own unique landscape.
The secret wasn't a magic seed or a blueprint.
It was achieving macro stability, getting out of the way to unleash entrepreneurship, and enduring endless trial and error.
Development is contextual. You can't just imitate. When the imported template shatters in your hands, that's when the real work begins.
You have to look at the actual terrain beneath your feet, not the map in your head.
And that is why this matters to you, listening right now. Stop looking for the flawless template. Start looking for the billionaire's green juice routine.
The world is a rugged, dancing mountain range. You have to build your own map.
Which leads us to our final chilling thought for today. Because right now, at this exact moment, we're watching this tragedy repeat globally.
Developing nations are under immense pressure to swallow massive new perfect templates from the West.
Standardized AI regulations, rigid green energy mandates, complex ESG financial structures.
The wealthy nations are holding up the blueprint again, saying, just do this, it's the only path.
Are we just forcing them to walk blindly off their own invisible cliffs all over again? Are we handing them blueprints for a glass skyscraper when they're building on a fault line?
The historical data suggests we are. Imposing belief maps on rugged terrains usually just ends in disaster.
So, next time someone hands you a guaranteed blueprint for success, remember the dancing mountains, remember the phantom ranches. Sometimes the only way to the peak is to throw away the imported map, embrace the chaos, and hack your own path through the jungle. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.